Welcome back to another episode of the Consistency Corner podcast. I am on a roll today, guys. We're batching a couple podcast episodes, and I had on my calendar to actually record this one in a couple days, but I just did another one, and I was like, you know what? I'm on a roll. I'm ready to talk. I'm just in that energy, and we're going to dive right in. And so today, what we're going to be talking about is deciding when you need mentorship or coaching or education versus when you need someone to just take something off of your plate. And I will share my personal journey in my business and where I'm at with that and what I've seen for other people along the way, whether they are a few steps ahead of me, a lot of steps ahead of me, a few steps behind me, just starting out, whatever it is. And I want to start this conversation with, I always tell my clients in business, and when it comes to our marketing strategy, we cannot compare our chapter 30 to our competitors' chapter 300. And this happens for solopreneurs. This happens for small business owners. This literally happens for large business owners. When I was in corporate, I worked in the fitness industry for a retailer. And, this was a very successful retailer, 8-figure revenue, multiple locations, omni-channel, but we would constantly find ourselves comparing our marketing strategies to what Nike was doing, what Lululemon was doing. And I remember being like, but y'all, we are not them. We are not Nike. We are not Lululemon. We do not have that budget. We do not have that brand equity. We can't compare our chapter 30 to their chapter 300. You can't compare your chapter 1 to your competitor's chapter 10 or 12 or 200. So, all that to say, figuring out how to get to the next level, try the next strategy, pivot, tweak. As a business owner, we have to decide sometimes, do I need someone to show me the way, show me the path, mentor me, help me get there? Or do I just need someone to do it for me? And I'm going to take you through kind of some of the steps that I have used to make some of those decisions. And I am a huge fan of mentorship and coaching. I have worked with a coach for over 3 years. And in addition to coaches, I regularly will sign up for workshops. I listen to podcasts. I'm always learning from other people. I enjoy learning. And over this past couple of months, I had a contract with a coach that was coming to an end and trying to make a decision of whether I was going to renew or not. And financially, based upon my current revenue and what's happening on my business, it was a squeeze. And a lot of times you will hear people say, well, you have to spend money to make money, or your investment will pay off in the future, even if it doesn't pay off immediately. And I 100% believe those things. When I hired my first coach, I spent thousands of dollars on a mastermind before I made a single dollar. But when I was ready to leave corporate and I now had the capacity to sell my offers and launch my business, everything that I had learned in that year or more with that coach made all the difference in the world, and it helped me get there. And the community that I, gained from working with that coach was game changing for me and life changing, and something that I 100% agree was worth the investment. But as we grow in our businesses, in the beginning, absolutely, mentorship is so important. You don't know what you don't know. Why would you not work with someone who's a few steps ahead or even several steps ahead to show you the way versus trying to go to Google University and figure it out on your own and throw spaghetti at the wall? So mentorship is great. But as I was making my decision to whether or not I was going to renew my contract with this coach or even join another mentorship program, because there's a lot of women who run coaching programs that I look up to, that I admire, that whether it's business information, there's a coach that I'm looking at working with someday to learn about running Facebook ads. And because it's something that I don't know how to do, I want to learn from her. Or maybe it's something around mindset. I've looked at working with a mindset coach one-on-one because I know that there's mindset work to be done. That's a constant thing that we're going up against. And whether that's a coach or a therapist or whatever, those are forms of mentorship and support. But when it comes to business mentorship, having a business coach, somebody who is sitting with me, looking at my offers, looking at my messaging, looking at my operations, all of those things. I've worked with a coach now for over 3 years. And when I was deciding whether or not I was going to renew a contract, I had a conversation with a couple of friends actually who said, what if you take a break? What if you step back for 6 months, even a year, and learn to trust yourself? Because honestly, I had gotten to a point where I was dependent upon a mentor to make a decision. I was waiting to see what they said. I wanted to talk to them about my decisions. And I was losing some of the confidence in myself and my own gut feeling and intuition. And as a sacral generator in the human design world, if you're into that, my decision making strategy is to use my gut, to respond based upon my gut instinct. And that's something that you have to kind of decondition yourself to learn how to do, because we've been taught to use facts, use figures, use data, and all of that is important. And consuming that data and facts, figures, information, education can inform what our gut knows, but sometimes our gut just knows. And if we're constantly relying on external validation, other people telling us what we should do, or data being the only thing that we use to make decisions, we can lose our ability or our skill. We're not strengthening that skill of trusting our gut. So I made the decision of like, okay, I'm going to take a break from mentorship. And I did not renew the contract. And, I might go back and work with that coach someday. I still respect her incredibly, love her program, but it was time for me to take a break. And after I took a break, I was like, okay, I'm going to really focus in this quarter on networking, right? And I'm showing up in rooms and I'm working on expanding my audience through attending networking events, because that's the strategy that I'm using to grow my audience and top of funnel, have more eyes on my business. And I joined a networking organization called the Dames, which if you've ever heard of it or you have questions, send me a DM. I'm happy to share more. But it's a networking container, online networking container for women who are 6 and 7 figure earners. And they actually kind of split you into cohorts based upon where you are in your business journey and your revenue. And it's all about networking and learning from each other. But there's also education opportunities. There's people teaching workshops. And I have found that I am filling my calendar with a lot of workshops and a lot of teaching. And when I sit back to reflect, I'm like, okay, I love to learn. I'm doing this because it's fun. I'm doing this because it lights me up, but it's taking my time so that I'm not actually able to get stuff done. And I talked about on the podcast that I made a decision recently also to end my contract with my virtual assistant, who I love, 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 love. Have worked with her and her team. It's a VA agency, creative agency. I have worked with them for a long time, and they do all my podcast production and podcast repurposing. But again, as a business owner, after several months of not hitting revenue projections, I needed to make a financial decision that made sense. And at that time, it was like, okay, we're going to pause on working with the VA, which means that Ruthie is now doing all of the things that they used to be doing. I'm editing the podcast, I'm uploading it, I'm writing the show notes, I'm writing the emails to share about the podcast, I'm doing the social media clips, I'm coordinating with all of the guests. And at first, that was super overwhelming. It was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to fit this into my already busy schedule? Well, let's go back and talk about that busy schedule. I'm scheduling all of these mentorship calls or education and workshops. I'm going to all these online networking events. And not only does that take up time on my calendar, but it takes up capacity and mental energy, because as much as I love to be in a networking group, I love to meet other people and share ideas and ask questions. When I finish one of those calls, I'm tired because I pour a lot of energy into it. So since I'm just sharing all the behind the scenes and the real life situation with you, I'll share what a couple of mentors actually told me was, look at your calendar. At least 1 week a month, you need to have no calls. None for the entire week to restore and reflect your energy. So I'm working on that. Also looking at your calendar and saying, is there at least one day, if not two, that you take no calls? And so for me, I've decided, okay, that's got to be Mondays. Mondays, we're not going to do any calls. If a networking group or mentorship opportunity comes up on a Monday, I've got to say no, because I've got to protect that day to be a no call day so that I have it. Eventually, the goal is to get to Mondays and Thursdays, but I'm working on that, one day at a time here. So again, I go back to my business journey, where I am today to get to the next level. Do I need a mentor to teach me and tell me what to do, help me figure out the path? Or do I need someone to take some things off of my plate and do it for me? Guess what? Both of those things cost money. And because we are in business to make money, the idea is our business should be providing revenue so that we can invest in those things. But when you're in this kind of like, I'm so close, but I'm just not quite there yet, it can be a really tough decision. And if you find that you cannot invest in both, here's the questions that I want you to ask yourself. If you're like, okay, I can invest in something, but is it going to be in somebody to teach me and show me? Or is it going to be in somebody to do it for me? Here's the questions that I want you to ask yourself. When it comes to teaching and coaching, if you already know how to do this thing because you have done it, maybe you haven't done it well, but you did it. And you're like, I don't want to do it. It doesn't light me up. It doesn't give me energy. It's not fun. Done for you is where we need to go, right? And I'll use bookkeeping for an example. That will be the last thing that I would ever cut in my business because I don't want to be in QuickBooks. I don't want to be a bookkeeper. Could I do it if I had to? Yes, especially now that I have worked with a bookkeeper and learned some tips and tricks and ins and outs of QuickBooks, but I don't want to do it. So done for you makes sense. I don't need to take a course or a class on how to do your own books. I don't want to do it. Alternatively, like I talked about Facebook ads, that is something that someday I do want to know how to do. I want to be able to do it for other clients in my business. I don't want to have to outsource it. Or if I do outsource it to a team member, I want to know enough that I feel confident in, are we doing things right? What should we be checking? What are the things that we should be looking at? So that is something that the next time I decide I'm ready to run ads after I've built a cash reserve, for my financial people who are listening, I'm going to invest in mentorship and somebody to teach me how to do it or do it with me so that I can learn. So those are kind of just some things to ask yourself. Do I want to do it? Do I want to do it in the future? Do I know, do I think that that I don't know what I don't know? And this is where like a business strategy mentor might come into play. If you're, early in your business, or maybe you've been learning from somebody in a different industry and you want to kind of hone into somebody who's a few steps ahead of you in your specific industry. Again, that's where mentorship might be really helpful because somebody's going to teach you so that as you scale and grow as the CEO, you have the knowledge to make decisions in the future. I've seen successful business leaders outsource without knowledge and get taken advantage of. And that's honestly, when I launched my group coaching program last spring, I wanted to be able to mentor new business owners on marketing because marketing specialists are really good at marketing. And I've seen marketers sell things to people that they aren't ready for. I've seen 8-figure business owners invest in things that they aren't ready for because they didn't have marketing foundations in place, because they didn't know any better, and they were trusting a specialist to have their best interest at heart when they didn't. And are there great specialists out there who will say like, hey, you're not ready for this? Absolutely. But are there also people out there who will take your money and take advantage of you? Yeah, unfortunately there are. And so before you get in a situation like that, that's where mentorship, whether it's a coach and mastermind or program or course, might make sense, or even a just group of trusted advisors, people that that you can ask questions to, who might have different perspectives than you, that you can kind of run things by. That can be really helpful too. But when it goes back to the question of mentorship or done for you, when it comes to your time, sometimes we've got to ask ourselves, where do I want to spend my time? And if you like to spend your time on education and learning, okay, maybe that's where we're at again. Or if you're like, I know that investing this time right now will help free up my time in the future or teach me the things that I need to know to get to that next step. And I'm willing to invest that time, because we're not just investing money with mentorship. We are investing time because we've got to learn it. We've got to implement the process. We've got to try things out and test things. And learning isn't just listening, learning is also doing. And so the things that your mentor is teaching you, do you have the time to reflect on that and go and implement it? And in that case, you might need to invest in something as a done for you so that you can free something up to do the mentorship, which means that the mentorship is actually costing more than you originally thought. So again, these are all just things to think about. And like I said, I strongly believe in mentorship and education, coaching and development. And so it's something that I will invest in again in the future, even though I'm taking a little bit of a break right now. And outsourcing isn't a bad thing. And sometimes with outsourcing, and this is something that I really appreciated learning early in my business journey, it's not about outsourcing in your business, but maybe it's about outsourcing in your life. Right now, I'm not paying for my VA anymore, but I am ordering factor meals, which are like the pre-made meals, not even the like Hello Fresh where you get in the ingredients and you have to make it, but like literally these are like, I mean, let's say like they're like lean cuisines, frozen meals, except they're not frozen. They're fresh and they're healthy and whatever. So my husband and I are investing in those right now so that 5 nights out of the week, I don't have to cook dinner. We go to the kitchen, I put them in the microwave, we eat them, throw the little container away. There's no dishes, there's no cooking. And that has freed up some time for me so that I can do some of those things myself that I used to be able to outsource, but I'm still outsourcing something. Same thing with, having somebody to clean your house. 100% best investment I ever made. I don't want to clean. I don't like it. It's terrible. I don't want to do it. So do I want to spend the $100, $120 every other week to have someone come and clean my house? Absolutely. Worth the investment. That is something that I can outsource to free up some of my time to do the things that give me energy, to do the things that light me up, not only time, but mental capacity and energy. So I don't know that I have like an answer for you in this podcast of which is right, mentorship or done for you, if you're ready to kind of take the next steps in your business. But I hope that those gave you things to think about. And when it comes to marketing, if you are looking for mentorship or you are looking for done for you, let's have a conversation, because although I wouldn't call myself a coach, I do love to mentor people. I love to teach. I actually really love to facilitate workshops and share knowledge and ask questions to help people get thinking in a different direction. So I'm happy to just have a conversation with you. Send me a DM. And if you're like, oh, Ruthie, I'm ready for you to just like take this off my plate, let's talk about it. Done for you 9 Grid could be a great option for you, because we can get social media checked off of your list. So it's kind of like outsourced, but then done. So it's not an ongoing outsource project like a social media manager. Or if you're really ready to go all in with a strategic marketing partner who cares about your business as much as you do, I've got one spot open today for the CMO strategy plus implementation container. So I'd love to talk to you about that. But either way, I'm glad you're here. If you like these kind of behind the scenes perspective conversations, please let me know. Send me a DM on Instagram, and we'll see you next week.